What if the most iconic moments in movie history weren't acting at all? What if the fear in an actor's eyes, the pain in their scream, or the danger on screen was brutally real? In Hollywood, the camera never blinks, and sometimes it captures accidents, risks, and raw human reactions. No script ever planned. From near-fatal stunts to unscripted chaos, these legendary scenes were born when fiction lost control and reality took over. Mission Impossible Fallout. Tom Cruise has built his legend on one simple rule: if it looks impossible, he'll do it for real. But in Mission Impossible Fallout, that rule nearly ended the entire production. The stunt was deceptively simple on paper: Ethan Hunt sprinting across a rooftop and leaping to the next building in a desperate chase. No green screen, no stunt double, just height, speed, and precision measured down to millimeters. The cameras rolled. Cruise ran full force toward the edge. He jumped and the margin betrayed him. Instead of landing clean, his foot slammed violently into the building's ledge. The sound echoed across the set. In that instant, his ankle shattered. What happened next is the part that still shocks Cruise and audiences alike. Screaming in pain, Cruise didn't break character. He hauled himself up with sheer will, limped forward, and finished the shot, his face locked in the determination of Ethan Hunt even as his body was failing him. Only after the final beat did the truth surface: the injury was severe enough to shut down production for weeks. The footage was reviewed. Any other film would have cut it. Fallout kept it. Why? Because the pain was real. The limp was real. The desperation wasn't acted, it was documented. That split second where a movie star becomes a wounded human pushing forward anyway is burned into the film forever. It wasn't just a stunt gone wrong, it was a declaration. In Mission Impossible Fallout, realism didn't come from visual effects, it came from a broken bone, a rolling camera, and an actor who refused to stop. Back to the Future Part 3. On paper, it was just another carefully controlled movie stunt. Marty McFly, trapped in the Old West, is dragged to the gallows, his feet kicking his body, swinging. The tension played for dark humor. Michael J. Fox trusted the setup. The rope was measured, the timing rehearsed, the danger supposedly removed. Then the camera rolled and everything went wrong. As the scene began, Fox's playful, exaggerated movements suddenly changed. The rope tightened more than planned. His kicks became frantic. His hands clawed at the air, not as Marty McFly, but as a man fighting for oxygen. For several terrifying seconds, no one realized the truth. They thought he was acting. He wasn't. Michael J. Fox was actually being choked. His vision blurred, his body weakened. Panic replaced performance. When the crew finally understood what was happening, they rushed in and cut him down just in time. The joke was gone. The laughter evaporated. What remained was the chilling realization that a beloved family film had come within inches of real tragedy. Production protocols were immediately reevaluated. Safety officers tightened every rule. But the damage was already done because some of that fear, some of that raw tension had already been captured on film. The scene still carries an unsettling weight, one no amount of acting could ever fake. It's a haunting reminder that even in a fun time-traveling adventure, the line between movie magic and real danger can vanish in seconds. And sometimes the most convincing performance isn't a performance at all, it's survival. Alien Resurrection. On a set filled with monsters, darkness, and grotesque science experiments, no one expected the most jaw-dropping moment of Alien Resurrection to come from something as ordinary as a basketball. The scene was meant to quietly redefine Ripley, now something more than human. She turns casually, tosses a basketball behind her back, and sinks it clean through the hoop. In the script, it was just a visual trick. Movie magic would handle the rest. Except Sigourney Weaver had other plans. Unknown to most of the cast and crew, Weaver spent weeks training in secret. Again and again, she practiced the shot over her shoulder without looking until muscle memory replaced doubt. On the day of filming, everyone assumed they'd fix it in editing. The cameras rolled, Weaver turned, she threw, swish. The ball dropped perfectly through the net. No cut, no trick angles, no CGI. For a moment, the entire set froze. Then disbelief exploded into laughter, shouting, and stunned silence. The reactions you see on screen aren't performances, they're real. The actors weren't watching Ripley, they were watching Sigourney Weaver do the impossible. The director didn't hesitate. The take stayed. Why wouldn't it? That single flawless shot instantly transformed Ripley into something uncanny, calm, precise, almost supernatural. And it worked precisely because it was real. In a franchise built on artificial creatures and elaborate effects, one of its most unforgettable moments came from pure human skill captured by accident. No danger, no pain, just a reminder that sometimes the most powerful moments in cinema happen when reality shows up uninvited and nails the shot. The Usual Suspects. The lineup scene in The Usual Suspects was written to be cold, intimidating, and razor-sharp. 5 hardened criminals, 1 sterile room, 1 repeated command. Give me the keys, you cocksucker. It was supposed to establish menace, tension, and control, the kind of moment that tells the audience these men are dangerous. Instead, it became something else entirely. It started with a mistake. Stephen Baldwin delivered the line with a bizarre tone, half mocking, half ridiculous. A tiny crack in the mood, then another. Benicio del Toro mumbled. Kevin Pollak smirked. The dam broke. Laughter erupted, uncontrollable and genuine. These weren't actors breaking character for fun, this was 5 professionals failing completely to keep it together. The instinct on most sets would have been to cut immediately, reset, regain control. But director Bryan Singer did something unusual. He let the cameras keep rolling. What followed wasn't scripted chaos, it was real chemistry exploding in real time. The glances, the whispered insults, the way they leaned into each other trying desperately not to laugh. None of it was planned, none of it was rehearsed, and somehow it worked better than the original intention ever could have. Because beneath the humor, something authentic surfaced: familiarity. These men didn't look like strangers anymore. They looked like a group with history, tension, and shared secrets. The laughter didn't weaken the scene, it humanized it. It made them unpredictable. That accidental take made it into the final cut and became one of the most iconic moments in modern cinema. A scene meant to be threatening turned unforgettable because it wasn't controlled, because it was honest. In The Usual Suspects, one failed take revealed a truth every filmmaker eventually learns. Sometimes the best scene is the one that escapes the script entirely. Comment. Cut. If you think this scene should have been stopped, and tell me why in the comments. Die Hard. The plan was simple. Hans Gruber would fall. Safely. Controlled. A clean stunt executed with wires timing and careful preparation. Alan Rickman was told exactly when it would happen so he could act the shock, the terror, the final defeat of one of cinema's greatest villains. But the plan was a lie. As Rickman stood suspended above the void of Nakatomi Plaza, counting in his head, waiting for the cue, the crew released him early. No warning, no preparation, just gravity. The moment his body dropped, something extraordinary happened. The arrogance vanished. The composure shattered. What the camera captured wasn't acting, it was pure, unfiltered human fear. Rickman's eyes widened. His mouth froze. His arms flailed instinctively, betrayed by his own survival reflexes. That split second of panic, real panic, became immortal. The fall itself was safe. The shock was not. When Rickman hit the end of the wire, the set fell silent. He was physically unharmed but visibly shaken, and everyone on set knew they had just captured something they could never recreate. No amount of rehearsal could manufacture that expression. No visual effect could fake it. That single frame redefined Hans Gruber's death. It turned a standard villain's fall into a moment of unforgettable realism. The audience doesn't just see Gruber die, they feel him realize it. In Die Hard, the most legendary shot wasn't built with explosions or gunfire. It was born from one unexpected drop, one stolen moment of terror, and the cruel honesty of gravity doing what it always does. The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. In The Two Towers, Aragorn faces what he believes is total loss. His companions are gone. Hope is fading. The script called for a simple gesture of frustration, one sharp kick at an orc helmet followed by a cry of despair, a controlled moment, a clean take, nothing more. Then reality intervened. Viggo Mortensen, fully immersed in Aragorn's grief and fury, didn't hold back. He kicked the helmet with full force. What no one anticipated was the sound that followed a dull, sickening crack. Mortensen had just broken 2 toes. The pain was instant and brutal, but instead of breaking character, he let it pour straight through him. His scream ripped across the set, raw, anguished, almost animal. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't planned. It was the sound of a man in real pain funneled directly into the soul of a fictional king. The crew froze. Cameras kept rolling. Director Peter Jackson immediately recognized what had just happened. That scream wasn't acting, it was truth. Mortensen's posture, his voice, the way grief and physical agony collided in one explosive moment, nothing could ever replicate it. The take stayed. What audiences see on screen is not a performance built from technique, but from instinct. Aragorn's despair feels devastating because it was devastating physically and emotionally in that instant. Actor and character collapsed into one. It's one of the most powerful moments in the trilogy, not because of spectacle or dialogue, but because pain was real. A minor accident became cinematic history, proving once again that sometimes the most unforgettable scenes are born when the body betrays the plan and the camera refuses to look away. Fight Club. The violence in Fight Club was always meant to feel raw, ugly, and uncomfortably real. Bruises mattered. Pain lingered. Every punch was supposed to carry weight. But one of the film's most memorable moments wasn't born from choreography or rehearsal, it came from a quiet decision made seconds before the camera rolled. Edward Norton was supposed to throw a fake punch. That was the plan. Then director David Fincher leaned in and whispered something that instantly changed everything. Hit him for real, no warning, no practice, and most importantly, Brad Pitt had no idea what was coming. When the scene began, Norton didn't pull the punch. His fist slammed straight into Pitt's ear. The reaction was immediate and uncontrollable. Pitt recoiled, stunned, half laughing, half angry, clutching the side of his head as he snapped, "Why the ear?" That line wasn't scripted. It wasn't clever writing. It was pure human response to sudden pain. The camera kept rolling. What followed was a strange electric mix of chaos and restraint. Norton tried to stay in character, visibly shaken by what he'd just done. Pitt adjusted, blinking, rubbing his ear, his performance now fueled by real irritation and shock. The tension between them shifted instantly, no longer staged, no longer theoretical. Something real had entered the scene. Fincher knew he had captured lightning. He kept the take. That unexpected punch became one of the most talked about moments in the film, not because it was brutal, but because it was honest. It perfectly reflected Fight Club's core philosophy: violence as disruption, pain as truth, chaos as clarity. In a movie obsessed with authenticity, one unscripted blow accomplished what hours of rehearsal never could. It shattered comfort, broke predictability, and reminded everyone on set and in the audience that sometimes the most powerful cinema comes from crossing the line and letting reality bleed into fiction. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. For most audiences, the helicopter chase in Terminator 2 Judgment Day feels like peak Hollywood illusion, perfect timing, flawless precision, impossible angles. It looks like visual effects, it feels like movie magic. But the terrifying truth is this: almost none of it was fake. James Cameron wanted reality, not the illusion of danger, but danger itself, measured, calculated, and pushed to the edge. For one of the film's most iconic sequences, he insisted on using a real helicopter flown by an elite pilot skimming just inches above concrete at high speed. No green screen, no miniatures, no second chances. As the cameras rolled, the helicopter roared into the canal, descending lower and lower until the spinning blades were frighteningly close to the ground. The clearance was so tight that even a minor miscalculation, a gust of wind, a delayed reaction could have turned the set into a disaster zone. Cast and crew stood frozen, watching something that felt less like filmmaking and more like a forbidden stunt. Inside the cockpit, the pilot was operating at the absolute limits of control. Below him, solid concrete. Above him, no margin for error. The helicopter passed under the bridge exactly as planned by inches. Real inches. The kind you can't cheat. When the shot ended, no one cheered. There was silence. Shock. Then relief. Everyone understood they had just captured something that could never be safely recreated. Cameron kept the footage not because it was flashy, but because it was honest. That moment is burned into T2 forever. Not as a visual effect, but as proof that sometimes the most unforgettable action scenes come from staring danger in the face and trusting that reality won't blink first. Rocky IV. When Rocky IV promised the biggest fight in the franchise, audiences expected cinematic violence, carefully choreographed punches, dramatic slow motion, and the illusion of pain. What they didn't know was that one of the most brutal moments in the film wasn't an illusion at all. Sylvester Stallone wanted realism. Dolph Lundgren wanted authenticity. So they made a reckless agreement some punches wouldn't be pulled. Not full force, but real enough to feel. At first it seemed harmless. 2 trained professionals, 2 disciplined bodies, a controlled risk. Then Lundgren threw one punch too clean. It landed square in Stallone's chest. No dramatic pause, no collapse. Stallone finished the scene like nothing had happened. To everyone on set, it looked fine, just another hard hit in a boxing movie. But hours later, the pain arrived. His breathing became labored. His heart rhythm went dangerously out of sync. Doctors delivered a terrifying diagnosis: the blow had caused inflammation around his heart, pericarditis. Stallone was rushed by plane to intensive care and monitored around the clock. For 4 days, the actor who played the ultimate underdog was facing a fight no camera could capture. Most productions would have rewritten the scene, cut the footage, move on. Stallone did the opposite. After recovering, he returned to set and kept the shot in the final cut. That punch. The one that nearly stopped his heart, the one that crossed the line between performance and physical trauma. It became part of the movie's DNA. That's why the fight between Rocky Balboa and Ivan Drago feels different. The exhaustion is real, the damage is real, the danger bleeds through the screen. You're not just watching a character get hit, you're watching an actor gamble with his own body for authenticity. In Rocky IV, the Cold War wasn't the only thing at stake. One punch proved that sometimes the price of realism isn't symbolic, it's measured in heartbeats. The Wolf of Wall Street. Chaos was already the point of The Wolf of Wall Street. Excess, noise, money spiraling out of control. The scenes were designed to feel unhinged, but one of the film's most shocking moments wasn't designed at all. It simply happened. In the middle of a wild office sequence, a woman suddenly steps forward and begins shaving her head. No build-up, no explanation, no warning. The clippers buzz, hair falls, the room freezes. That woman wasn't an actress following a scripted beat, she was Natasha Newman, a professional hairstylist and friend of Leonardo DiCaprio, acting on pure impulse. The cameras were rolling. No one had been told, not the actors, not the extras. What you see on screen, the laughter, the stunned silence, the confused cheers, is completely real. People weren't reacting as characters inside a movie. They were reacting as human beings watching something irreversible unfold in real time. Martin Scorsese instantly understood what was happening. This wasn't disruption, it was truth. In a film about people who treat consequences like suggestions, this unscripted act captured the soul of the story better than any line of dialogue ever could. So he didn't cut. He didn't reset. He let it breathe. That shaved head became a symbol, not rebellion, not shock value. Total surrender to excess. A moment where self-control disappears entirely. And because it wasn't planned, it landed harder than anything that was. In The Wolf of Wall Street, authenticity didn't come from method acting or elaborate direction. It came from a single impulsive decision made without permission, caught by a camera that refused to look away. Proof that sometimes the most honest scenes are born not from the script, but from pure, uncontrollable madness. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. Part 1. By the time Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 entered production, Tom Cruise had already redefined what doing your own stunts meant. Broken bones hanging from aircraft rooftop leaps, none of it was new. So when the film promised its biggest stunt, yet even seasoned crew members were uneasy. This wasn't choreography. This was a commitment with no undo button. The plan was terrifyingly simple. Cruise would ride a motorcycle at full speed off a cliff launch into empty space, then release the bike mid-air and deploy a parachute. No green screen, no hidden ramp, no digital safety net. Just physics, gravity, and a single human decision. Preparation bordered on obsession, months of training, hundreds of motocross jumps, dozens of skydives. Every angle calculated, every second rehearsed, because once the wheels left the cliff, there was no second take. On the day of the stunt, the set fell silent. Cruise accelerated. The engine screamed. And then he disappeared, riding straight into nothingness. For a heartbeat, man and machine floated beyond logic. Then the motorcycle dropped away, spinning into the void as Cruise pulled free and opened his parachute, threading himself through jagged rock and violent air currents. The cameras caught everything. No cuts, no cheats. When he landed safely, the crew erupted not in applause, but in disbelief and relief. They had just filmed something that felt less like cinema and more like a dare issued to reality itself. That jump isn't just the centerpiece of the film, it's a manifesto. In Dead Reckoning Part 1, action isn't simulated, it's lived. And Tom Cruise isn't playing someone who risks his life. He's proving once again that sometimes the only way to make the impossible believable is to actually do it. The Spy Who Loved Me. Before CG, before digital safety nets, before audiences assumed everything could be faked, there was one moment that redefined what a movie stunt could be. In The Spy Who Loved Me, James Bond skis off a mountain and disappears into the void. For a few silent seconds, gravity wins. Then the parachute opens, revealing the British flag. Cinema history is made. That moment wasn't a trick, it was a gamble. The man behind the skis wasn't Roger Moore, it was stuntman Rick Sylvester. Standing on the edge of Mount Asgard, surrounded by ice, wind, and nothing else, Sylvester faced a drop so unforgiving it allowed no mistakes. There was no alternate angle, no backup take. If he failed, there would be no second chance and no movie. When the cameras rolled, Sylvester pushed off the cliff at full speed. The skis left the snow and suddenly he was falling silent, weightless, alone. For 3 terrifying seconds, the world held its breath. Then the parachute exploded open the Union Jack, filling the sky, turning a near-death plunge into a triumphant image burned into pop culture forever. The stunt was captured in a single take. One jump, one life. No safety harness beyond the parachute itself. When Sylvester landed, the crew didn't cheer immediately. They stood stunned, processing the fact that they had just witnessed something that should not have been attempted and would never be attempted again. That jump changed action cinema. It set a new standard for spectacle, courage, and authenticity. Long before audiences questioned what was real, The Spy Who Loved Me answered the question with brutal clarity. Sometimes legends aren't created by characters. They're created by people willing to step off a cliff and trust the fall. Police Story. If Hollywood flirts with danger, Police Story charges straight at it, no brakes, no safety net. Jackie Chan didn't believe action should be simulated. He believed it should be survived, and nowhere is that philosophy clearer than the infamous shopping mall stunt that nearly ended his career. The setup sounds insane even today. Chan would leap from a multi-story balcony, grab a vertical metal pole wrapped in electric lights, slide down at full speed, and crash through a glass storefront at the bottom. No wires, no stunt double, no second take planned, just gravity, electricity, heat, and real glass. When the cameras rolled, Chan jumped without hesitation. As he slid down the pole, the bulbs exploded around him, burning his hands instantly. The friction scorched his skin. His grip weakened. Below him waited a wall of real glass. He slammed through it, hitting the ground hard enough to silence the entire mall. The shot looked spectacular. The damage was worse. Jackie Chan suffered severe burns, a dislocated pelvis, spinal injuries, and nerve damage to his hands. Most actors would have shut production down. Chan stood up smiling through the pain and insisted the scene stay in the film, because for him, that suffering was the performance. The stunt was filmed once, because it could only be done once. That moment became legendary not just for its visual impact, but for what it represented: absolute commitment. In Police Story, action isn't about illusion or bravado. It's about risk, consequence, and a filmmaker willing to put his own body on the line for the audience. Jackie Chan didn't just raise the bar for action cinema. He nearly broke himself doing it and changed the genre forever. On the waterfront. Some of the most powerful moments in cinema aren't born from danger or accidents, but from silence, instinct, and a choice made in the moment. On the Waterfront contains one such scene, and it changed acting forever. The setup was straightforward. Terry Malloy confronts his brother in the back of a car. The script called for anger, accusation, rage, a heated exchange that would push the story forward. That was the plan. That's what everyone expected. Marlon Brando chose something else. As the camera rolled, he didn't explode. He collapsed inward. His shoulders sagged. His voice softened. Instead of fury, he delivered quiet devastation. I could have been a contender. Not shouted, not dramatized. Spoken like a wound that never healed. This wasn't in the script. Director Elia Kazan instantly understood what was happening and did the smartest thing a director can do in that situation: nothing. He didn't interrupt. He didn't correct. He let Brando keep going, letting the scene transform from confrontation into confession. What emerged was something revolutionary. Terry Malloy stopped being a tough guy betrayed by the world and became something far more human, a man mourning the life he never got to live. The pain wasn't theatrical, it was intimate, almost uncomfortable, as if the audience wasn't watching a performance but overhearing a private moment they weren't meant to witness. When the scene ended, everyone knew they had captured something unrepeatable. That moment redefined screen acting. It proved that power doesn't always come from volume or violence, but from restraint, vulnerability, and emotional truth. In On the Waterfront, no one was hurt, no stunt went wrong, no risk was physical, and yet it remains one of the most dangerous scenes ever filmed because it stripped a character bare and in doing so exposed something painfully real about all of us. Inglourious Basterds. Quentin Tarantino has always chased authenticity, not realism, but truth. Real fear, real tension, real breath caught in the throat. And in Inglourious Basterds, one of the film's most disturbing moments crosses a line few directors are willing to approach. The scene is brutally intimate. Hans Landa tightens his grip around Bridget von Hammersmark's neck. The room is silent, the camera doesn't move, the violence isn't loud, it's suffocating. On screen, it feels terrifyingly real. That's because part of it was. Tarantino didn't want a fake struggle. He wanted the body to react before the mind could intervene. Diane Kruger agreed to the setup, trusting her co-star Christoph Waltz and the crew. When the cameras rolled, Waltz applied real pressure, carefully controlled but undeniably present. For a few seconds, Kruger wasn't acting fear. Her breathing changed, her eyes filled with panic. The tension in her body was instinctive. On set, no one spoke. Everyone watched, uncertain where the limit truly was. When Tarantino finally called cut, the release was immediate. The danger was over, but the moment had already been captured. What remained on screen was something no rehearsal could reproduce: genuine terror frozen in time. The scene ignited debate after the film's release. How far is too far? When does the pursuit of truth become recklessness? There are no easy answers, but the result is undeniable. That scene lingers because it doesn't feel staged, it feels experienced. In Inglourious Basterds, the most chilling violence isn't explosive, it's quiet, close, and uncomfortably real. A reminder that sometimes the most haunting moments in cinema come not from spectacle, but from crossing invisible boundaries and daring the audience to look away. If you liked this video, leave a 1 in the comments. If you want us to change the topic, leave a 3. I really appreciate your sincerity. Mission Impossible Fallout. Tom Cruise has built his legend on one simple rule: if it looks impossible, he'll do it for real. But in Mission Impossible, Fallout, that rule nearly ended the entire production. The stunt was deceptively simple on paper: Ethan Hunt sprinting across a rooftop and leaping to the next building in a desperate chase. No green screen, no stunt double, just height, speed, and precision measured down to millimeters. The cameras rolled. Cruise ran full force toward the edge. He jumped and the margin betrayed him. Instead of landing clean, his foot slammed violently into the building's ledge. The sound echoed across the set. In that instant, his ankle shattered. What happened next is the part that still shocks Cruise and audiences alike. Screaming in pain, Cruise didn't break character. He hauled himself up with sheer will, limped forward, and finished the shot, his face locked in the determination of Ethan Hunt even as his body was failing him. Only after the final beat did the truth surface: the injury was severe enough to shut down production for weeks. The footage was reviewed. Any other film would have cut it. Fallout kept it. Why? Because the pain was real. The limp was real. The desperation wasn't acted, it was documented. That split second where a movie star becomes a wounded human pushing forward anyway is burned into the film forever. It wasn't just a stunt gone wrong, it was a declaration. In Mission Impossible, Fallout realism didn't come from visual effects. It came from a broken bone, a rolling camera, and an actor who refused to stop.